I'm sure everyone has gotten ghosted at some point, but here in LA specifically, I don't know what it is. You'll get somebody who's so invested in you, and then out of nowhere, they're like, oh, I can't do this. You'll always get like 3 different types of guys. You'll get the guy who's like super passionate, who wants it, and then ghosts you. You get the guy that you like, but like really isn't into you, but kind of just keeps you there whenever they're bored. And then you'll get the super clingy guy that you're like not into at all. Like it just always falls into those 3 different categories. And I feel like even for me, I've fallen into those categories. I'll always remember when I think I was already living here for 2 years, and he was older. I was at the gym and we were working out, and this guy kept looking at me, and I was just like, okay, like I don't like to assume that someone is looking at me because they like me, because you just never know. So he kept looking at me, and then right as I'm about to leave, he comes up to me, and I'm like, hey, and we start talking, and then he's like, hey, like, do you want to grab something right after this, like to eat? And I was like, okay, sure, why not? Like, even though thinking back, he could have been the killer. Like, he could have so been like somebody who's just gonna take me, because to go from the gym and then just go straight somewhere is a little weird. I don't know, maybe it's just me. So, long story short, we end up seeing each other. He tells me he likes me, this and that, and then I will never forget, we were gonna go, it was like the moment where you're gonna meet the guy's friends. So I was gonna meet his friends, we were gonna go to Six Flags, and I don't know what happened. It's like, I don't know if he really started to think. He was also 38 years old, so just to give context, he's much older, so I'm thinking, oh, he's a mature guy, he's, you know, he has it together, but that's not always the case. So we're on our way to Six Flags. In the car, he picks me up, and I notice he's trying to pick an argument with me. Like, you know when somebody's trying to really like get at you and just trying to get you mad? So I remember telling him like, yo, what's the issue? What's the problem? And he's like, he gaslit me and was like, oh, if you're gonna act like this, then I'm just gonna take you back home. I was devastated. Like, I remember, I was like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah. He literally takes me back home and he ghosts me. And I was devastated. That was like my first experience. And then after going through that experience, I started talking to people, and apparently this is like kind of a common thing here. I'm sure everyone has gotten ghosted at some point, but here in LA specifically, I don't know what it is. You'll get somebody who's so invested in you, and then out of nowhere, they're like, oh, I can't do this. And then you'll get the guys who are like, of course, really into you, but you're not into them, and they're really trying, and I try to be super nice about it. I don't ever want to hurt anyone's feelings, but sometimes it can become a little bit like scary, like they're also the killer, like what are you gonna do to me? But I feel like we kind of always like to play the victim, but we don't always tell the stories of when we're the bad guy. So I'm the type of person, I'm very, very clear with my feelings. Like, I'm very straight, no chaser. Like, I'm someone who, I'm a firm believer in like straight talk results in straight understanding. But there's some times where that guy that can be kind of overbearing I'll just be like, you know what? I try to tell you that I didn't like you, and you're not getting it. So I have been in that situation where I've had to ghost. There's something about that though that makes me feel so guilty, because I know what it feels like and it hurts me. But you know, sometimes you do have to do it. Sometimes people just don't get the hint. And sometimes people also take like you talking to them like, oh, maybe there's still a chance, like they're still responding to me, they're still, you know, invested. So sometimes I do think ghosting is necessary, but if you can avoid it, and if you can be someone who is all about communication, which I think is the most important thing in all types of relationships, whether it's friendship, whether it's romantic, anything, whether it's a family member, then take that route. Don't be somebody who's a coward and just ghost just to ghost, like the last guy who literally had an unhinged moment and was like, couldn't be clear with me. But yeah.